Welcome to Ekadashi Vrat. Devyasi. That's it? Welcome back. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janna Ballabha Jaya Giri Vardhari. Gopi Janna Ballabha Jaya Giri Vardhari. Gopi Janna Ballabha Jaya Giri Vardhari. Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Today, believe it or not, we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll be reading from the first canto, second chapter, text number 11. Vadanti tat vidas tatvam yajnanam advayam rameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shamdete. Vadanti tat vidas tatvam yajnanam advayam rameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. Vadanti tat vidas tatvam yajnanam advayam rameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. Vadanti tat vidas tatvam yajnanam advayam rameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. Tatvam yajnanamadvayam tatham yat jnanavadvayam
Brahmeti Paramatmeti
Brahmeti Paramatmeti
Bhagavaniti Shabdyate.
Bhagavaniti Shabdyate Vadanti. They say. Tat. That. Tat Vivida. The learned souls. Tattvam. The absolute truth. Yat. Which. Jnanam. Knowledge. Advayam. Non-dual. Brahma iti. Known as Brahman. Paramatma iti. Known as Paramatma. Bhagavan iti. Known as Bhagavan. Shabdyate. It so sounded. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Srila Prabhupada. The absolute truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitative difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are qualitatively one and the same. The same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of the Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, and as Bhagavan by the devotees. In other words, Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead, is the last word of the absolute truth. Paramatma is the partial representation of the personality of Godhead, and impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization, but those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. As it is explained in the first shloka of the first chapter of the Bhagavatam, the supreme truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from the illusion of relativity. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known, but in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy. Therefore, there is a duality of inferior and superior energy, whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same superior energy. There are three kinds of energies of the supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic, but there is a difference of quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with inferior energy is illusioned, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is the sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute, there is no such sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything there is absolute. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning, everyone. And today is the appearance day of Srila Advaita Ācārya, for which Kaviraj Goswami, in his Mangalacharana of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, has given two verses, and for which Srila Prabhupada has given explanation. Mayakarta Jagatkarta, Maya Yat Suridat Yada Tasyavatara Evayam Advaita Ācārya Ishvara. And the second one is Advaitam Harina Dvaitat Bhaktanam Acharya Samshanat Bhaktavataram Ishamtam Advaita Ācārya Ashraya. And I chose today's verse because there's a way in which Advaita Ācārya has this name, Advaita, which means it's non-different. And in today's verse, we get an idea that, yes, Advaya Gyan Tattva, the Supreme Absolute, is one thing, but there are varieties within the one. And those are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And in the Mangalacharana verse, we hear the name Advaita along with Ācārya. And this is a conundrum perhaps for those who are strictly Advaitins. There are those who, as Prabhupada just alluded to in the purport, have a sense that there's only one aspect of God, and that is his oneness or impersonal feature, and that the appearance of variety within that is illusory. That perfection means to come back to the amorphous, inexplicable oneness of the Supreme. However, this conception is stymied by Kaviraj Goswami by naming Advaita Ācārya Advaita and Acharya. So he's Advaita because he's non-different from Krishna. And in the explanation of Kaviraj Goswami from the Mangalacharana, Krishna expands himself into various forms. Maya Bharta Janda Sangashrayanga Shete Shakshat Karanam Bodhi Manje Yasyai Kamsha Shipuman Adi Devas Tamhin Shi Nityananda Rama Prapadye. After Krishna's appearance, then he expands into Lord Nityananda and then into the Chaturvyuha, and then into Sankarshan, the second Chaturvyuha, and then the Mahavishnu, then the various Vishnus, Mahavishnu, Garvadakshay Vishnu, and Shirdakshay Vishnu. And all of them have a function. Advaita Ācārya is an incarnation of Mahavishnu, which is explained in summary in the Brahma Samhita, in which this Samhita describes how Mahavishnu, who's lying on the Karna ocean, glances at the material energy, which at that point is neutral. And by his glance, which is personified, there's an injection of the conscious living entities into the material nature, and then there are various other energies of the Lord, like time energy, which then animate the neutral material energy. And it is that expansion of Mahavishnu who is said to be Advaita Ācārya. As is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lord has efficient cause and material cause. And the material cause means that there has to be some substance to work with. So the Lord creates that, and then the efficient cause is the one who animates it. So Mahavishnu is the efficient cause, and Advaita Ācārya is the material cause. Despite these technical designations, we find that the mood of this creation Leela otherwise known as Shrishti Lila, which means that the creation springs forth from the Lord. The most fundamental aspect of this description, which is also given in the Purī, and then of course in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada named one of the chapters Purī confirmed, there's a person. It's not impersonal. And Prabhupada goes to great lengths especially in one purport, in the Adi Lila, chapter 6, in which he's describing Advaita Ācārya, that there are those who opine that material nature is self-sufficient, there's nothing behind it. It goes on by a kind of momentum, the interaction of various elements that stimulate one another into various forms of the world. And Advaita Ācārya comes to dispel that idea, which leads to darkness in the life of the soul. Asurinamate loka andhena tamasabrita tamste pratyabhigashchanti yeke chatmahano janaha. There's a darkness for the soul when the soul forgets that he's personal and that he has a personal relationship with the Lord. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vitaraga Bhayakroda Manmaya Mamupashita, get over it. These various misconceptions, raga, inordinate attachment to the material world, which is an opportunity to become free from the illusion that we're separate from God, and bhaya, which is fear of a personal God or one's own personal existence, and krodha, which is an exasperation with the whole idea of discussing it, because there are so many conflicting ideas that one simply becomes annoyed and then expresses sarcasm or cynicism, which is definitely a prominent emotion in modern times. Advaita Ācārya is connected to the material nature because he's involved. Hare Krishna Sundarananda, welcome. He's involved in the creation lila as part of it. But what is his nature? That we can benefit from to see that his idea is that he would like to call the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come and give the souls of the world an opportunity to take to bhakti. That's why he's called the Bhakti Ācārya. Acharya and bhakti. He's the Acharya of bhakti. And it's his compassion and his request that Lord Chaitanya heeds and comes to this world to teach the Yuga Dharma. And it's his sense of compassion, Advaita Ācārya, as one of the stewards of the material nature and seeing the plight of the living entities here, as expressed in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, people were ostentatiously spending money on weddings. Nothing wrong with having a wedding, but I'm just saying they're spending too much. And various types of demigods who Sutta Goswami says, well, the Vaishnavas aren't really into that. There's various ghastly forms, and people were attracted to those forms and wanted some material benefit, and they had become mad. So it is his impetus in calling for the Lord to please come and sort this out. The Shrishti Lila, the expansion of the Lord, is mentioned in the Brahma Sutras that the Lord has some involvement with the material world. At the same time, he doesn't. He's not part of the material world, but because it emanates from him, he feels some responsibility to give living entities an opportunity to come back to him. So Advaita Ācārya, as Mahavishnu, is a gateway for the various incarnations of the Lord to come to the world. And Advaita Ācārya specifically calls for Lord Chaitanya to come to the world. His methodology was based on some research he did in the Shastra, which led him to a verse that said, if you offer tulsi leaves and Ganga water to the Lord, then he'll sell himself to you, Krishna's nature. And so he then got tulsi leaves and Ganga water and offered them to the Lord in the form of his Shalagram Shila, who accepts worship as he's a direct incarnation of the Lord, conduit for connecting to other deities as well. And he requested fervently, again and again, for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to the world and rectify the situation being what I just mentioned, that people were materialistically absorbed. And a feature of Advaita Ācārya that's noted in the description in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Kaviraj Goswami, besides his compassion, which I just indicated, is his sense of servitude towards the Lord. And this is made much of in the description of Advaita Ācārya in the chapter 6, and that is that all of the manifestations of the Lord, starting with Lord Balaram, are inclined to serve the Lord. They have an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and each one of the expansions do. For instance, as we know, Balaram takes a lot of service in the spiritual world, and then he takes service in helping the Lord to manifest the material world, as I just described the different expansions that he assumes. And what to speak of Shesha, which means the remainder. When he's taken all the other services, then anything left over, he takes that too. If you ever met devotees like that, who try to take all the service, they're kind of in that mood. And Advaita Ācārya, although he's 52 years old when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes his advent in the world on the request of Advaita Ācārya, considers himself a servant of Lord Chaitanya. And you can see the age difference in the so-called worldly Leela of the Lord. And he appears, he's a boy, and Advaita Ācārya is becoming elderly, as was indicated by his wife, Sita Thakurani, in the pastime when Advaita Ācārya deliberately tried to invoke the ire of Lord Chaitanya by preaching Mayavad philosophy, the Yoga Vaiśeṣika. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came there angry enough to pull him off the Vyasasana and to thrash him, at which time Sita Thakurani called out that he's an old man, please spare him. It was the relationship between Advaita Ācārya and Lord Chaitanya that Advaita Ācārya worshipped Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resisted and offered respect back, and that led to the pastime I just mentioned, that Advaita Ācārya wanted to establish that, no, I'm your servant, you're my master. And Kaviraj Goswami says this is the pervasive attitude of all the devotees. All the incarnations, all the Vishnu Tattva expansions have that mood after the Lord. They're masters of the world, but after they expand, they have this mood of service. And the Lord comes in different manifestations, but his most advantageous appearance in the world is as a devotee. So Advaita Ācārya is such an appearance of Vishnu, but as a devotee. When you see him in Shantipur, there's a beautiful deity of Advaita Ācārya, and he's a very effulgent, sweet-looking devotee. And according to Srila Prabhupada, we can take most advantage of that when the Lord comes in with great opulence in his various avatars. People often deride him. Naham prakasha sarvasa yogamaya samavrita mudo yam nabijanati lokamama jamavyayam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that when I manifest as the Supreme Personality of God, people deride me. It's like, how can you be God? You have a form. It's the disease of the living entities. But when he comes as a devotee, Vishnu comes as his own devotee, then we can follow in his footsteps. That's why Advaita is also called Ācārya. He's not different from God, but then he comes as a teacher to set the example of how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And practically we can see the meaning of today's verse, that although the Lord is one and non-different, still there are varieties within the difference which lead to relationships, which are the ultimate purpose of everything, which is to develop a relationship with the Lord. 18 Thakur Gauriyaki Karyachina Atmasat, 18 Charan Vandhan, Tine Moranat. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas concentrate on developing their relationship with the Supreme Personality of God, beginning with Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, then Govindaji, then Gopinath. Each one that indicating different levels of advancement in devotional service, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. And when Advaita Ācārya comes, he shows the prominent means of developing a relationship with the Lord, which is Dasya Ras. And this is prominent in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, that everyone has this sense of Dasya Ras towards Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna himself, but he's not just Krishna, he's also Radha and Krishna. And as Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur mentions in his Chaitanya Chandamrita, Yata Yata Gora Pradada Vinde, the verse that begins Yata Yata Gora Pradada Vinde, that's in your songbook, mentions that by this sense of dasya towards Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then one naturally develops a sense of relationship with Radha and Krishna, or especially the mood of Srimati Radharani within one's heart awakens naturally by serving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Advaita Ācārya shows this. In the relationship between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Ācārya also, there's a period during which, or at which, Advaita Ācārya sends a note to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, enigmatic statement that there's enough rice in the market, it's saturated. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the note, he laughed slightly. The other devotees were somewhat confused as to the meaning. Swarup Damodar understood it, but he didn't say it out loud. And after that point, Kaviraj Goswami says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela changed, and he became as if mad when he entered into the Gambhira, and practically from the outside perspective, it seems like the carrying on of a mad person, rubbing his face against the walls in separation, throwing himself in the ocean, escaping and acting in ways that would be not understandable to the general public. So Advaita Ācārya had called him to the world, and then he also, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, now he calls the deity, and now he's telling the deity he's finished, he can go back. You've done your work with the Yuga Dharma, now you can take up the other purposes you had, the internal purposes for Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kadusho Vanayaiva, etc., to experience what Srimati Radharani experiences. So compassion is one of the features of Advaita Ācārya, and also this idea of servitude towards the Lord, where he declares Chaitanya Dasera Muni Chaitanya Dāsa, that I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and a servant of the servants. And this is the foundation for perfection in spiritual life. That is, to come to this position of being a servitor. Fortunately, we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to worship in this mood of servitorship. And there's nobody better than Lord Chaitanya. He's Radha and Krishna combined. Kaviraj Goswami said he's the deity of the Paramahamsas. So if we engage ourselves in his service and emulate the mood of Advaita Ācārya, which was showing compassion to the living entities in Kali Yuga, helping to spread the Sankirtan movement, then through that method given to us by Advaita Ācārya, we can attain the perfection of devotional service. And now we'll take some reflections or questions to expand the conversation. What are you discussing back there, the time? It goes till 8:30. Something different? Uh-oh. I think I'm getting kicked out. Okay, we have a couple seconds left for reflections or questions. That's not what we originally decided. We were going to have an hour-long Bhagavatam class, right? Now it's 45 minutes, or is it just today? Questions, reflections?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I was reading about Srila Prabhupada visiting Advaita Ācārya's house, and before leaving for America, and before when he was a grahastha also, he used to visit Advaita Ācārya's house, and he used to sit at the back and chant, the pujari was writing that he could see tears in Prabhupada's eyes, and he would pray very fervently to Advaita Ācārya that and before he left, the pujari went and met him, and Prabhupada mentioned that I'm going to America and I want to spread Lord Chaitanya's name, and so when I was reading that, exactly what you're saying, that he had so much compassion for the fallen souls, and he wanted to spread the word of Mahaprabhu. So exactly how Advaita Ācārya also did the same.
Yeah, just a slight detail in that very important story you just told us, as I have read it, and that is that Prabhupada expressed to the Pujari why he was emotional. And he said, my spiritual master has given me an impossible task, and therefore I'm praying for Advaita Ācārya's mercy. And then after Prabhupada left, the Pujari didn't see him, but what he did see was Western Vaishnavas showing up there. And when he met with them and asked them where they were from, they showed him Back to Godhead magazine and had told the story, Prabhupada's story of how he had gone to America and then started this movement and was successful. And the Pujari then became emotional and said, he's done it. He's performed the impossible. And that's one of the hallmarks of the Sankirtan movement under the shelter, Advaita Ācārya. Taking shelter of Advaita Ācārya means assuming that we can do the impossible based on being instruments for the Lord. That there are impossible tasks, seemingly impossible, but when we take shelter of Advaita Ācārya and beg the Lord to be used in His service, then we can do something wonderful. Let's take a couple more. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vishnu.
I think it's significant also that after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, the first place, there were very few devotees there during his sannyas initiation. But then he came to Advaita Ācārya's house in Shantipur, and went to his second house, and there he brought all the devotees to see Lord Chaitanya because they were missing him so much. And they stayed there for some 10 days doing some kirtan, and when the Saji came, all the devotees got the opportunity before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left for South India. Just another example of his compassion for the devotees.
Oh, thank you. It was at that meeting as well that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu submitted to his mother. Was it not? That I think I acted impulsively by taking sannyas. And I'll do whatever you wish. I'm your property. You just tell me, I'll come back here. And she said, no, you can't do that. But if you'll stay in Jagannātha Purī, there's a corridor between Navadvip and Jagannātha Purī. Devotees are always coming and going. And at least I can get news of you regularly, which did happen. Devotees would obviously come from Navadvip. And Advaita Ācārya was among them. He would also come to Jagannātha Purī, or did come to Jagannātha Purī to meet with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here at that time. It's mentioned in the Beta Kirtan pastimes that he was given he was honored, especially honored when he came. And Pratapuruja Maharaj was asking, who is that? Advaita Ācārya. Did you have a point? Any question? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It was really moving the way you explained the name Advaita Ācārya, the depth in that name. And Srila Prabhupada also gave names to his disciples that was really befitting them, the empowerment. Could you share what Vaiśeṣika means?
Well, I once asked a senior godbrother. He said, what do you care? At least Prabhupada gave you some name. He said it could have been Lucky or Sparky or anything, and you should appreciate it. It comes from the root word Vaiśeṣika, which means specific or special, and it's a name of Krishna, indicating that his creation is unique in every aspect, and that means that there's no one particle that's the same as another. There's no one relationship that Krishna has, as Brahma mentions in his prayers in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, that it's multifaceted or unlimitedly faceted, his relationships with living beings. They're all unique. So it means Krishna's unique nature and his unique creation. And it's also the name of Lord Balaram, found in the Balaram Sahasranam, where it says he's the knower of Vaiśeṣic philosophy. And it's also an atheistic philosophy by Kannada. And in that philosophy, the word Vaiśeṣa, or the root word Vaiśeṣa, indicates his philosophy of how the universe works. They're unique particles that, as I alluded to before, they have different properties, and when they mix in the combinations and permutations, they form the different forms in the world appear from that process. And if you consider my name to be Vaiśeṣika Dāsa, then I would serve those who are illusioned by that philosophy by giving them Prabhupada's books. I mean, that's what a service that I would like to offer to the Vaiśeṣikas. And then there's the theory of the Johnny Cash. He had a song of the boy named Sue, and in cowboy times, if somebody was named Sue, they would be bullied all the time, and a man named his son Sue, and then people bullied him, and then he became a very strong person because of being bullied all the time, and he had to fight back. So it could be that also. Okay? Anything else? Yes. I'm assuming that I'll be informed when it's finished.
Hare Krishna. Could you explain the efficient cause and the material cause again? I didn't really understand that. Advaita Ācārya being the efficient cause and Mahavishnu being the material cause.
Just as explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself, using the analogy of a potter, where there's a potter and then there's the clay, and both things are in the analogy. The Lord takes two positions, one as the potter and one as the ingredients that the potter shapes. So there's a way in which the ingredients have to be there, and those are Krishna. Everything's Krishna. Yasmin yato yarhi yena cha yasya yasma yata yarutaras twapara parova bhava karoti vikaroti prataksabhava sanchoditas tadakilam bhavataksvarupam, as Prahlad Maharaj says in his prayer. Krishna, you're everything. You're everywhere. You're the ingredients. You're the one who works with them, and so forth. And so that's the analogy that's, I think, most helpful in understanding those two aspects of the Lord. He creates everything, and He's also the ingredient. Recently, I've been reading the Vaiśeṣika, looking at some commentaries. It's from the Rig Veda, and of course, it's called the Purusha Sukta. So it's about how the creation starts from a person. That's the most important part, and that if you read that chapter 6 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Advaita Ācārya, really that's the essence of it, is there's a person behind everything. It's Krishna. And He creates it. He produces the elements. They're not just produced by Him, they are Him. They're part of His energy. As Prabhupada mentioned in the purport here, the energy and the energetic are one, although there's a difference in the quality of the energies, as in Bhumirapo Anulo Vayu Kamano Buddharevacha Ahankara Ityame Binna Prakriti Rashada Apare Miton Tastanyam Prakritim Vidime Param Jiva Bhuta Mahabaho Yayedam Darite Jagat. You get a sense from the Bhagavad Gita that there's inferior and superior energies. And so it's a person who creates everything. It's not an impersonal force. And there is a problem with atheistic philosophies. There's the problem of the prime mover. You need a prime mover to move things. Nature doesn't move by itself. Eventually it stops. Even now, everything's being maintained. It's not just that the Lord creates everything and then He's actually maintaining it right now. We're able to discuss these topics and have cognition because He's there within our hearts and giving us intelligence. Sarvasya chaham hridi sani vishnu matak smritir ganam uponam cha. And He's facilitating everything that we do at every moment. So that's the important point, to remember that Krishna's there and He manifests Himself in different ways, very personally. And if we avail ourselves of His association through the chanting of Hare Krishna and serving, taking up the mood of Advaita Ācārya, we'll be happy. And if we don't, then we develop a sense of loneliness and disconnectedness and fear. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshita syad, as described by Kavi Yogendra in the Srimad Bhagavatam. As soon as you forget your connection with the person, Krishna, and that you're part of him, and you're a servitor, then you become morose. And I was just looking out my window yesterday, and I saw a brahmachari hiking along the pathway going to some guest house, I suppose. He had a backpack on his back, and I surmised that he had everything he owned in that backpack. And I thought, yeah, what a nice life. Just Krishna, and don't worry about anything else. So Advaita Ācārya gives us that doorway to the happy life of devotional service. So today we're going to go to see Tota Gopinath, a life-changing experience at Tota Gopinath. Some advice. It's written on the wall before you walk in the temple. And that is that if you take out your cell phone while you're inside the temple, there's a 500 rupee fine. And so it was probably written by the Pujari there because we know him and he's acerbic in his ways, although he's a very sweet person in another way. But he's written there, he said, better to give a donation than to be fined. And he does become quite agitated if you take out your phone. So while you're in the temple, you don't need to take any pictures. Or please don't. Just don't take out your phone. And also a couple of observations about going out on parikram together. We're never guaranteed any spot that's going to be absolutely quiet or sufficient for where we're going to stop and have kirtan and bhajan and discussion. So we have to go with the flow. Sometimes we'll go to a place where we're used to going, where it's nice and quiet. We have a place and we're accommodated, and we can get there, and there'll be gongs going, or they'll just say, "Oh, you can't do that here anymore." I mean, these things happen all the time in the Dham, so we just have to be really flexible. And if we can't find the place that we're used to, we'll go to another place. And the main thing when we're out on parikram is to keep the transcendental vibration going. There's a way in which we're representing this branch of ISKCON, this branch called ISKCON of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, and it's an opportunity when we do Harinam Kirtan to be absorbed in it. There are opportunities sometimes devotees take to discuss other matters while they're walking along with the kirtan, and that could be unseemly and also distract from the energy of the kirtan. So one of the ways to get the most out of the process is to stay absorbed in the Harinam and also to distribute books along the way and just stay engaged. And in between, we have our experts who will make sure there's no gaps, that we stop one program and then there's a 5-minute gap between the next one. We'll keep the transcendental vibration going, KTTVG. Yes. Oh yes, and the ways to distribute books, I promised last night that I would demonstrate. And just to reiterate, this is a guaranteed process. If you don't sell a book using this exact method, we'll pay for it. In fact, we'll double pay for it because we're so convinced that it works. And so there's several steps. Is that yours? Oh, I'm sorry. The first step is that here in Orissa, there's a great emphasis on worshiping God without wearing shoes. We discovered that because once, many years ago here in Purī, we were having a kirtan and somebody stopped their motorcycle and screamed at us. And I asked Madhavananda later what happened, because he wasn't there. And he said, were you wearing shoes? And we said, yes. And he said, that's why. They get really upset. And then, soon afterwards, when we were distributing books, I met a couple who were had a joint business, I guess, in the rickshaw business. And they were sitting there, and when I approached them, they both respectfully got down from their rickshaws, kicked off their shoes, touched water before they would accept anything from me, because they saw what we were doing. Then I realized that this was one of the ways to approach people in Orissa. So if you have shoes that you can kick off easily, those are the ones to wear when you're on book distribution, because the first thing is when you approach somebody respectfully like this, and then you kick off your shoes, then they'll kick their shoes off. And then you'll know that you have an instant rapport. And then the next rule of thumb is don't say anything. We first very ceremonially hand over a lollipop. Would you like to come over and I'll just show? I've kicked off my shoes and then lollipop. And I do this. Sticker. Let the record show that I'm literally not saying anything, but I'm showing him that, I already got the donation. And once we show this, and it's everything, those things are not on a string, this is. So you can hand this to them, and it will come back to you. So we also, as soon as we make these gestures and hand over these various items, we stand in mountain pose, Iyengar yoga style. And we don't move, and we don't speak. And even in the very, very rare instances where somebody's thinking about not donating or giving the book back, we're only inert and standing in mountain pose. And then just the other day this happened. Somebody was about to say no or give it back. We were in mountain pose, and they said, oh, okay. We're not going to quibble with the mountain. And then they'll give a donation, and then after that, we invite them to chant the Maha Mantra together with us, and we'll show it in whatever language. If people don't have ready cash, which I haven't found to be the case here in India, everybody has Lakshmi on them. In fact, last time we were here, we stopped a ditch digger. He was laboriously removing sand from the ditch, and he only had a gamsha on, and we did the routine. And then from the roll of his gamsha, he pulled out a little wad of rupees and donated. So it's my experience anyway that everybody has money here in India. And if they don't have cash, then they're very happy and used to this, which is, what's it called? UPI. They're very used to this, and it's just a few seconds interaction. They hit it with their phone, which they're used to doing, and Sanjay's your uncle. Are there any questions? Is it really clear? So it's approach humbly, submissively, keep this humility in your heart that you're serving Advaita Ācārya, serving the Sri Guru Parampara. Don't become condescending to people or feel that you're better than anybody because you're doing this and they're not, or anything like that. It's an opportunity to be very, very humble. And then in a mood of service, you kick off your shoes, and then if you talk, it lets the air out of the bag or out of the balloon, and you can disrupt the whole thing. So try it not talking for at least 10 people, and you'll see that it's very effective. Any questions? Okay. then these, yes, Prabhu.
Wearing shoes is a problem in India.
Why wearing shoes is a problem? Shoes are always left outside because they're interacting with objectionable materials on the earth. Even in Japan, in Asia, people leave their shoes outside. If you walk in to an environment with your shoes on, for instance in Japan, you're considered a boor, and it's a great transgression, and it's something that's pervaded the culture. That's taking off shoes is a sign of humility, and it's also considered clean, as shoes are considered unclean. Some of those nuances. But another point is, it is what it is. And that's what it is here, especially here in Orissa. You can take advantage, because once you kick off your shoes, it's on. And you'll see, I mean, it's off, and then theirs are off too. And it makes it just a really pleasurable exchange, because what you're doing is tacitly exchanging this idea that we're doing something innately spiritual here. I'm going to hand you a transcendental literature, and it's a nice reminder that there's some consideration that this is something sacred. It's not just a piece of paper. Like in America, people are so used to getting free things that they wouldn't consider it very carefully. So the ritual of removing the shoes and being very deliberate, it gives a context for this that is very helpful to maintain the right consciousness. Thank you very much. Great engineering of the bag too. So now, is it Prasadam time? So from here is Prasadam, and then we're going to, just after that, at what time? Then we're going to go up to, anyway, your turn. Please go ahead. Give her a mic.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. How are you feeling today? A big round of applause to those who joined us last night. I can see a few faces. Guru Maharaj already told us about where we are going. I'm just going to repeat that. So we're going to go to and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Bhajan Kutir. Okay, so how are we going to go? We're going to take totos from outside the hotel, and you will have volunteers there helping you get into the totos. You don't have to pay them. We'll take care of all that. And before you go out of the hotel, a couple of things to remember. Hydrate yourself. Please carry water bottles with you. We also had given you a packet of electrolytes yesterday for those who registered. If you already consumed it, it's fine. We'll give you one more from here. Also, put on sunscreen if you have a sensitive skin. We also gave you a spoon yesterday, and some of you were wondering what's with the spoon. Like pen, they understand, but what's with the spoon? So you have noticed that if you provide a spoon for the devotees to eat, then the chances of falling sick are much reduced, right? Remember to bring your spoon every day and wash it. If you didn't bring your spoon, you can run up the room and get it from there. For some of you who came late, have not registered, so please do register. We have operators standing by here to help you there. There were questions about laundry services, etc. Laundry service is available for you. Those of you who want to do your own laundry, wash your clothes. On the terrace, we have put lines for you, and there are 100 clips, clothes lines, so you can wash as much as you want if you have the time to do the washing. And then also, where is Bhaktin Rosine? Bhaktin Rosine, she's standing outside, standing at the back. Yeah, please come up here. Yeah, so we had talked yesterday about reflections. And so she has got those reflection cards. If you need some, please take it from her. She'll be sitting outside. And after you have done your reflections, please do give them back to her so that we can then pick up the reflection cards in the evening. We'll have a 15-minute session in the evening to go over the reflections every day, as Maharaj pointed out, like that. So a couple of things. Again, now we are going out, so just visualizing that. So once you get into the Toto is going to take you to a place called Birla Chowk. Right? After that, the roads become very narrow, so it doesn't make sense. And then from Birla Chowk onwards to Tota Gopinath, what are you going to do? Kirtan and book distribution, okay? And Chukuzben Prabhu already told the plans for today, right? So thank you so much for organizing that. And the book demo also happened. Maharaja, you wanted to do that? Already happened. Sorry, I was outside, over there. Also, one of the things that we just request is that when you come inside the room, just make sure that you put your shoes in one line outside in a proper manner. Most of you did do that today, by the way. I just found some later on. Also, since for those of you who are flying with us to Delhi to attend the second phase of the yatra, there is a restriction on the airlines. And so, and I have that in the FAQ document, how many kilograms and all that is there. But we have weighing machines available here if you, in case you want to weigh. And in case you're overweight, you can contact Maruranjan Prabhu and buy extra luggage allowance there, because it's cheaper if you buy it here outside than at the airport. So just to be mindful of that. Khaja, will arrange somebody to have khaja. For those of you who don't know, khaja is the delicacy very famous in Purī. And so we just, Maruranjan Prabhu, orders prasadam khaja for us, and then we, you can place the order. So we'll be more on khaja coming soon, but I'm just giving you heads up over here, there. And as Maharaj was saying, that when you're in parikrama, we don't know how things are going to shape up. We plan, we're going to have a lecture there. Suddenly the gongs start running, and so just go with the flow, and we'll do that. So we will we'll go to those two places. So we will walk from Tota Gopinath to Bhaktisan Saraswati Thakur's Bhajan Kutir, and then you'll visit that. Maharaj will guide you, and then from there we'll take totos and come back here, have lunch, rest in the afternoon, or go to the ocean, and then we'll have class again in the evening as usual. Maharaj, will 4:30 be fine today for the lecture in the evening, like yesterday, or?
What time's lunch?
Lunch will be around 2 o'clock, realistically. Yeah.
Does that work for everybody? That way
4:30
we'll
class in the
be finished by 6:30 in the evening. 3. Yeah, 4:30 was for the first day. It was convenient, but it might be hard for the ongoing. Generally, we've been doing 5:30 because it gives a little more time for lunch and getting freshened up before the next program. What do you think? 5:30? It gives a little more buffer, but we can always call an audible and change it. The line of scrimmage. So we can change it if we need to, but I think 5:30. Let's try it. It's always adjustable, but it's a little more reasonable as far as taking lunch and then getting ready to come to the program.
So for those of you who had volunteered for various services, you can be at your station depending on the services that you offered for. Okay. Any other questions? Any comments anybody has? Go ahead, Bandhu.
Hare Krishna, everyone. First time in Odisha, what are we expecting at Tota Gopinath? Should I just Google it?
No.
It's in your songbook.
I don't have, not
We'll
received
give
anything.
you a songbook. It comes as part of the...
Yeah, they came in late last night. They haven't registered yet. But
Okay.
in the morning, the book that I gave you in the morning, that's the songbook. In the morning when you came for the...
Yeah, I was looking at it, but then...
Just a few sentences. Tota Gopinath is a temple where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to meet with Gadadhar Pandit. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bequeathed a deity of Krishna to Gadadhar Pandit for him to worship, especially in Mahaprabhu's separation, because he committed Gadadhar Pandit to stay there permanently, Kshetra Sannyas. And the deity was very mysteriously discovered by Mahaprabhu in the sand. And it was dug up. It's a very unusual deity because Gopinath is sitting. You don't see any other deities like that. And it was the deity that Gadadhar Pandit worshipped. It's also the deity that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into when he ended his pastimes. And you'll see Srimati Radharani and Lalita Sakhi are also there, side on either side, and characteristically they're blackish in color because of their intense meditation on Shyamasundar. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
More when you go there. That's just the teaser. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for asking that question. It was a nice recap.
What time should we meet in the front for the tortoise? Yeah, 9:30. So I think we're gonna make our way at about 9:30. So if you start making your way out around 9:30, and we'll meet outside the gate. Yeah, and all the book packs will be ready in the foyer on the sofa. Okay.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, Shri Advaita Ācārya, if you so desire, please instill in us a sense of compassion and servitude towards the lotus feet of the devotees and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please empower us to spread the Sankirtan movement. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpataruscha kripa